Skip this video, and you may miss the highest frequency shift of this century. Not because a video has power over you, not because these words are magic, but because there are certain frequencies that only reach you once at the exact moment your body is finally quiet enough to receive them. And maybe that is why you are here now, at this hour, with this title, with this strange pull that made you stay instead of scrolling past. It is no coincidence that you are here. Say that to yourself slowly, not as a comfort, not as a flattering idea about your own importance, just as a fact you are allowed to consider. Because underneath every choice you have made today, every message you have answered, every silence you have sat inside, there has been a frequency running beneath it all, a tone so constant you stopped noticing it the way you stopped noticing the hum of a room. And tonight, or this morning, or whatever strange hour has found you here, that tone is about to become audible again. Before this video ends, you will understand three things. Soon you will see why your body has been the instrument all along, more than your mind ever was. Later you will understand why the people, places, and moments that keep repeating in your life are not random, but resonant. And before we close, I will guide you through a short practice that many people describe as the first time they felt their own frequency instead of only thinking about it. So before we go further, take this as your first tuning. If something in this message is already landing somewhere in your chest, subscribe to this channel now. Not as a reflex, not as a habit you barely notice, but as a small vow to keep returning to this frequency when the noise of the ordinary world tries to pull you back down into static. When you subscribe, you are telling your own nervous system, I am willing to keep listening. I am willing to keep tuning. I am willing to stop mistaking noise for normal. Because there are two kinds of people who arrive at a message like this. There are those who feel the first vibration, get uncomfortable, and reach for distraction. And there are those who stay, who let the discomfort pass through them like a wave meeting shore, and who discover on the other side of it something closer to their own true pitch. You already know which one you are tonight. For most of your life, you were taught that frequency is a physics word, something for radios and instruments, not something for you. You were taught to measure your life by achievement, by approval, by how well you performed the role handed to you. Nobody taught you to ask a simpler, older question. What tone am I emitting right now? What tone am I absorbing from the rooms I sit in, the people I call close, the thoughts I rehearse in the dark before sleep? This is not a poetic exaggeration. Your body is constantly broadcasting a signal made of nervous system state, emotional residue, and unspoken belief, whether or not you are aware of it. And what you broadcast becomes, over time, what you begin to attract, recognize, and repeat. That is the first revelation. You are not only living your life, you are also transmitting it. Many people spend years chasing frequency in the wrong direction. They believe that if they change the outer world enough, a better job, a better body, a better relationship, a louder achievement, the inner tone will finally shift on its own. And sometimes, for a moment, it seems to work. The applause arrives. The relief lasts a weekend, a month, sometimes a year. And then, quietly, the old static returns, because the frequency was never actually changed, only the scenery around it was. This is the trap almost everyone lives inside without naming it. Chase the outer symbol, wait for the inner tone to follow, and wonder, years later, why the same emptiness keeps finding new addresses. There are those who will keep doing this for the rest of their lives, chasing louder symbols to drown out a frequency they never learned to face. And there are those who will pause here, in this very video, and ask a harder, quieter question. What if I stopped trying to change my life to change my frequency, and instead changed my frequency to change my life? Not a promise, not a guarantee, but an invitation. Now listen carefully, because this is where the title becomes more than a title. The highest frequency shift of this century is not a single dramatic event happening somewhere out in the world. It is a private, repeatable moment available to anyone willing to stop long enough to notice their own tone. You have felt this before, even if no one gave it this language. You have walked into a room and felt instantly heavy without a single word being spoken. You have sat near someone whose calm made your own breathing slow down before you understood why. You have picked up your phone for no reason and felt an old, anxious hum rise in your chest before you had even opened an app. This is frequency, not metaphorically, but experientially. You already know this language. You have simply never been invited to speak it on purpose. Think about the last time you felt truly at ease, not distracted, not medicated by entertainment, but genuinely settled. What was the quality of your breath in that moment? What was the pace of your thoughts? What did your body feel like it was made of? Lightness or weight, spaciousness or clenched effort? Now think about the last time you felt truly anxious or small. What changed? Not the facts of your life, necessarily, but the tone underneath them. This is the second revelation. The events of your life are not the only variable. The frequency through which you meet those events is a variable too, and it is one you have more access to than you were ever told. Men, maran you merev, inesto honum tum. Here is the quiet loop most people live inside without knowing its name. A low-frequency state, born from old fear, old scarcity, old rejection, generates thoughts that match its own pitch. Those thoughts generate choices that match the thoughts. Those choices generate outcomes that match the choices. And when the outcome arrives, exhausted, disappointing, familiar, the person says, "See, this is just how my life goes. This is just who I am. This is just the world being unfair to me again." But it was never only the world. It was frequency, meeting frequency, until the loop looked like fate instead of pattern. You are not being asked to blame yourself for this. You inherited this loop the way you inherited a native language, without consent before you could evaluate it. But you are being invited to notice it, because a loop that is noticed is already beginning to loosen. There are those who will hear this and feel defensive, as if being told their frequency matters is being told their pain was their fault. It is not. Pain is real. Circumstance is real. Injustice is real. This is not a message asking you to smile through difficulty or pretend a wound does not exist. This is a message asking a different question entirely. Now that the wound exists, now that the circumstance is what it is, from what frequency will you continue forward? That question does not erase what happened to you. It simply refuses to let what happened to you be the only voice left in the room. Minjik, Tungurs, take a slow breath right now, without closing your eyes if you are not ready to. Just notice, for one moment, the quality of the air entering your body. Notice whether your shoulders are near your ears or resting where they belong. Notice whether your jaw is soft or quietly clenched around something you have not said. You do not need to fix anything yet. Just observe the current signal you are broadcasting in this exact second. This is the beginning of frequency literacy, the ability to read your own inner weather before it becomes the forecast for your entire day. Most people never learn this skill, not because they are incapable, but because no one ever slowed down long enough to teach it to them. You are learning it right now, simply by paying attention to what you usually rush past. You do not chase the frequency, you become it. Let that sentence sit for a moment, not as decoration, but as instruction. Chasing implies the frequency is somewhere ahead of you, in a future circumstance, in a version of your life that has not arrived yet. Becoming implies something else entirely, that the frequency is available now, in this breath, in this posture, in this exact unfinished moment, and that your task is not to run toward it, but to allow it, right where you already are. If this message is beginning to touch something real in you, comment this phrase now. I am tuning to a new frequency. Writing it is not a spell. It will not rearrange your circumstances overnight, but it does something quieter and, in its own way, more powerful. It becomes a marker your own mind can return to later, a small anchor point in a sea of ordinary scrolling, a moment where you consciously chose to notice your own signal instead of letting it run on autopilot. And when someone else reads those words beneath this video, they may feel, for a moment, less alone in the tuning. Now let the next layer open. Frequency does not only live inside your body, it lives inside your relationships, your habits, your environments, and your history. Every person you spend real time with is, in a very literal sense, an instrument you are tuning yourself against. Some people, without meaning any harm at all, carry a frequency of anxiety, comparison, or unresolved grief, and time near them can leave you feeling depleted in ways you cannot always explain with logic. Other people carry a frequency of steadiness, humor, or quiet resilience, and time near them can leave you feeling more like yourself than you did before you arrived. This is not about blaming anyone. Most people are simply broadcasting the frequency life handed them, unexamined, the same as you were before this moment. But it is worth asking, honestly and without cruelty, whose frequency have I been absorbing, and is it one I would choose on purpose if I were choosing consciously? The same is true of your habits. A habit is, underneath its surface behavior, a repeated frequency. Reaching for your phone the instant discomfort arrives is a frequency of avoidance. Rehearsing an old argument in your mind for the 10th time is a frequency of unresolved charge. Sitting in silence for even 60 seconds without needing to fill it is a frequency of presence, rare enough now that it can feel almost foreign the first few times you try it. None of these habits make you broken. They make you human, shaped by a nervous system that was simply trying to survive its own history. But shaped is not the same as fixed. What was learned through repetition can, slowly and patiently, be unlearned through different repetition. That is the third revelation. Frequency is not a fixed identity. It is a practiced pattern, which means it can also become a different practiced pattern, given enough honest, gentle repetition. If this is resonating with you, subscribe now, not as a casual gesture, but as a small, energetic commitment to keep returning to this frequency instead of letting today's clarity dissolve back into tomorrow's noise. Let it mean, I am choosing, on purpose, to keep tuning. There is a particular kind of tiredness that has nothing to do with sleep. You can rest for 8 hours and still wake up carrying it. You can take the vacation, close the laptop, silence the notifications, and still feel a low hum of depletion underneath the stillness. This is frequency fatigue, the exhaustion that comes not from doing too much, but from broadcasting a mismatched signal for too long, performing a version of calm your body does not actually feel, agreeing with rooms your nervous system quietly disagrees with, smiling through conversations that leave a residue you never named. This kind of tiredness cannot be solved with more rest, because rest was never the missing ingredient. Congruence was. The quiet relief of finally letting your outer signal match your inner one, even for a single honest sentence, even for a single honest boundary, can restore something that a week of sleep could not touch. Consider, for a moment, the frequency of the rooms you enter without questioning. The group chat that leaves you slightly worse each time you check it. The family gathering that requires you to shrink a version of yourself to keep the peace. The job that pays the bills and drains a tone in you that money was never designed to replace. None of these things are necessarily wrong to keep. Life is complicated, and not every mismatched frequency can be walked away from immediately. But there is a difference between staying somewhere consciously, with your eyes open, choosing it on purpose for reasons you can name, and staying somewhere numbly, because leaving never occurred to you as an option. The first is a frequency of agency. The second is a frequency of drift. You are allowed to ask, quietly, honestly, which one you have been living in. There are those who will read this and immediately begin listing every circumstance that makes change impossible, every reason the static must simply be endured. And there are those who will pause and ask a smaller, more honest question first. Not how do I change everything at once, but where, in this 1 week, could I let my outer signal match my inner one even slightly more than it did yesterday? Not a revolution, a recalibration. One conversation spoken instead of swallowed. One commitment declined instead of resentfully accepted. 1 hour reclaimed from noise and given back to stillness. Small recalibrations, repeated, are how a frequency actually shifts. Dramatic, sudden reinventions rarely hold. Quiet, consistent tuning almost always does. Here is a distinction worth learning, because without it, this entire teaching can be misunderstood. There is a difference between spiritual bypassing, using the language of frequency and vibration to avoid dealing with real pain, real grief, real anger, and genuine frequency work, which does not avoid those feelings but changes your relationship to carrying them. Anger has a frequency, and it is not automatically a low or unwanted one. Sometimes anger is the most honest, appropriate signal available, a clear tone announcing that a boundary has been crossed. Grief has a frequency too, heavy, slow, entirely necessary, not something to rush past on the way to a more comfortable vibration. This teaching is not asking you to bypass what is real. It is asking you to stop mistaking numbness for peace and performance for presence, so that when real feeling does arrive, you can meet it with a nervous system that has enough spaciousness to actually feel it, rather than immediately fleeing into distraction or old static. Think of frequency then, not as a mood you are supposed to force into permanent positivity, but as a range you are learning to move through consciously instead of unconsciously. Some days the honest frequency is quiet grief. Some days it is sharp clarity. Some days it is simple, unremarkable contentment. The goal was never to live in one single high note forever. The goal is to stop being dragged through your days by static you never agreed to, and to start meeting each day's actual tone with enough awareness to respond to it wisely instead of react to it blindly. Here is something worth sitting with honestly. Most people do not actually want their frequency to change instantly, even when they say they do, because a familiar low frequency, however uncomfortable, still feels safer than an unfamiliar higher one. The nervous system trusts what it recognizes, even when what it recognizes is exhausting. This is why some people sabotage good things the moment they arrive. Why calm can feel suspicious after enough chaos. Why peace itself can trigger a strange restlessness in a body that has only ever known vigilance. If this describes something in you, you are not weak, and you are not sabotaging yourself on purpose. You are simply meeting the edge of your old frequency's comfort zone, and edges, once noticed, can be crossed slowly, breath by breath, without needing to force a dramatic leap all at once. Now we move toward the practice hidden inside this message. Let your body settle wherever you are sitting or lying right now. You do not need silence around you, only willingness inside you. Soften your gaze, or let your eyes close if that feels right. Let your next breath be a little slower than the one before it. Not forced, just slightly slower, the way water slows near the edge of a wide, calm river. Feel the weight of your body being held by whatever is beneath it, the chair, the floor, the bed. You are not trying to escape this moment. You are arriving inside it more completely than you usually allow yourself to. Inhale gently through the nose, and as you do, imagine drawing in a frequency of steadiness, not as a picture but as a felt sense, a subtle settling low in the chest or belly. Hold that breath for a single quiet second. Exhale slowly through the mouth, and as you release the breath, imagine releasing a small piece of static, a worry you have been carrying longer than it deserved, a tension in the shoulders or jaw that has been holding a signal that no longer needs holding. Inhale steadiness, exhale static. Let this happen 2 or 3 more times, at your own pace, without rushing toward an endpoint. There is no wrong way to do this. There is only the noticing. As you continue breathing at this slower pace, silently repeat the sentence that has been forming underneath this entire message. You do not chase the frequency. You become it. Let the words move with your breath rather than your urgency. You do not chase the frequency on the inhale. You become it on the exhale. Feel how different this sentence lands when it is not something you are trying to achieve, but something you are quietly allowing to already be true in this breath, in this posture, in this exact ordinary moment that is, in its own way, not ordinary at all. Notice, without needing to change anything further, how your body feels compared to when this video began. Perhaps something has softened slightly. Perhaps very little has changed, and that is completely fine too. This practice is not measured by dramatic transformation in a single sitting. It is measured by repetition, the same way any frequency becomes native to an instrument, through return, not through force. Let this practice become something you can return to without needing a video to guide you through it again. 3 slow breaths. Inhale steadiness, exhale static. 1 honest sentence, repeated silently, timed to the rhythm of your own chest. You do not chase the frequency, you become it. This costs nothing, requires no special setting, and can be done in a parked car, a crowded waiting room, or the 60 seconds before a difficult conversation begins. The people who genuinely shift their frequency over time are rarely the ones who had one dramatic breakthrough. They are the ones who return to a small practice like this one, quietly, imperfectly, hundreds of times, until the new tone stopped feeling like an effort and started feeling like home. Now, gently bring your attention back to the room around you, to the sound of your own presence here, to the simple fact that you stayed for this entire message when you could have left minutes ago. That choice to stay is itself a frequency. The frequency of someone who is done sleepwalking through their own inner weather. Let us gather what this message has offered you. The recognition that you are not only living your life, but also transmitting a signal through it. The understanding that chasing outer symbols rarely changes an inner tone, while tending the inner tone quietly begins to reshape the outer symbols over time. The honesty that certain people, habits, and environments have been tuning you in directions you never consciously chose, and that you are allowed to choose again, on purpose, starting now. And the practice, simple enough to repeat daily, of noticing your breath, your body, and the sentence that can guide you back whenever the static returns. You do not chase the frequency, you become it. If this message reached you at the right moment, like this video now, not for an algorithm, but as a way of sealing this recognition in your own field of attention. Subscribe if you have not yet, because the next transmission will go deeper into what happens once the frequency begins to shift, how relationships change shape when you stop matching old static, and why some people will feel unfamiliar to you once your tone has genuinely moved. Share this with someone who has been quietly exhausted by a frequency they never chose, someone who needs to hear that the static is not permanent, that a different tone is not only available to some rare, fortunate few, but available to anyone willing to slow down long enough to notice it and return to it again and again, patiently, without punishment, without hurry. You are not behind. You are not too far gone to shift. You are not broken simply because the static has been loud for a long time. You are, right now, in this breath, closer to your own true frequency than you were before this message began. You do not chase the frequency, you become it. And perhaps the highest frequency shift of this century is not a single event waiting to happen somewhere out in the world, not something announced in a headline or witnessed in a laboratory, but the quiet, repeatable moment happening in you right now, the moment you remember that you were never only listening to your life. You were always, also, the instrument playing it.